I'm never into sports when I was a kid. um, I was always skinny. I mean, naturally, when you don't do anything, you just like end up skinny, unless you just end up fat. So I also used to watch pro wrestling and all that. So I always had the exposure to these like superhuman masculine bodies, and so I thought it was pretty good. And so I remember in middle school, my friends, like some of them who started wrestling and stuff, they're normally the ones who like first began lifting weights. So they started getting some shape to their bodies and not just looking like children anymore. So that kind of made me be like, let's get on some of this. And it wasn't until ninth grade that I went to Target on my bike and got my first 40-pound dumbbell set, and I used to just do exercises that like made logical sense. I didn't really know what I was doing, just kind of, let's do 1,000,000 curls and see what happens. And then I would be like, well, what if I move the resistance to the other side and worked my triceps, which I don't know what they are. And so I feel like I think I used to do like kickbacks, because I was like, oh, this makes sense. And those were the last kickbacks I ever did. But in like 10th grade, my school built like a whole new weight room facility, which was like 1,000,000 times better than the one that they had before. I would just like ask people, I was like, could I just like go in there and use it? So that's what I did. The only thing that sucked was there's no mirrors. There's no mirrors at all. They're big Olympic platforms though, which is really cool, even though that meant nothing to me at the time. And when the football team lifted, I think sometimes you'd get like kicked out, but I don't think that really started happening until like way later. But I mean, especially since like the football team would be mainly using the Olympic platforms to like squat and clean, like 2 inches deep. Yeah, so I started lifting there and started trying to go like just consistently, and there was a bunch of kids who like did the same thing, so we're kind of friends, and you know, what's it called? Algebra 2 or like calculus would end, and it'd be like, yo man, you going to lift? Yeah, alright. And you go into the weight room and just do 1,000,000 curls and bench press until you die. And then get your triceps as pumped up as it could possibly be before they explode on the on this machine where like you would rest your arm here and hold on to like a neutral grip thing here and move it out. And that was when like I first started hearing gym lore, where people would be like, yeah, you're not supposed to drink water when you lift. That was the best thing I ever heard. The kid was always like real beefy who told me that. Funny because he was Indian too. He's like one of the biggest Indians I've ever seen. He was always fat though. I mean, the big thing was like lifting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I think sometimes I would just like miss a day here or there, or like change it to like Tuesday and Thursday, or I don't know, just get it in. And I would try to do everything above the waist, everything, and just like I would end up being there sometimes for like 2 hours or long bouts of time, and then I'd tell my parents to go pick me up, and I'd eat my Power Bar Protein Plus, which in retrospect I still have wrappers from this thing, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, what crap, it's terrible. And then I would go home and eat like 3 microwave meals and like 4 Yoplait yogurts, because all I cared about was the protein. I did not understand what the other nutrients did or really were, or how they like functioned or metabolized. So it's just like protein. This has 4 grams. Let's eat a million of these. Just this massive meal, and my parents would be like, "Oh, are you hungry?" And I'm like, "No." So yeah, and around that time, my friend who had moved around a couple times since elementary school, and who eventually, like in 7th grade, he like moved across the street and was in a different school district. In like 10th or 11th grade, he wanted to start working out at the JCC, and his mom worked there, and so because he wanted to start working out there again, he was always like fat, like a real geeky kid, still is really, but so he wanted to start working out there, and he asked me if I wanted to go with him. So he got his mom to put me on their family membership. So I had a free gym. Not a bad one either. In fact, this place was like the best that I'd ever used, up until now, except for this one gym that costs $100 a month. So we started going every Friday, no matter what. Well, I would go no matter what. Every once in a while he would go. But the other times I'd use the school weight room. Because we couldn't drive yet. So we'd need a ride to this place and stuff, and that was always just inconvenient. Even though it was real close. In fact, it was closer to my house than my school was. And his school was closer to my house than my school was. The gym and his school were right down the street from each other. So yeah, it would just be Fridays. And then over time, just getting more serious, I like wouldn't skip days, and I noticed like actually having muscular shape. And I always noticed how my pumps looked ridiculous. Pump is when a muscle is held under isometric, meaning constant unmoving tension, or goes through many concentric and eccentric contractions with a weight that it can handle, that's like light, so they can handle again and again, just as if you're like pumping your arm. Blood every time the muscle relaxes a little bit, blood and other nutrients and fluids flow into the muscle beneath the skin and enlarge it to its like maximum capacity with fluid, and therefore the skin on top gets extremely tight, and the veins burst out if you don't have enough fat to cover them. Yeah, sufficient. Yeah, so I remember being in my school's weight room and watching like the football players and guys who wrestled. It was only the football players. They were the ones who like lifted the best, or most seriously, and they would squat a lot, and they would clean a lot, and they would all bench a lot, which I also did, but my bench was always just terrible. I guess I didn't really understand the best way to execute it, I suppose. I don't really know why it was so terrible for so long. But when I would watch them clean and squat, I'm not even sure I ever saw them deadlift. When I would see them do those two exercises, I remember the football coach one day came in and he was like, "Who wants to learn how to clean?" And in my head I was like, what are you talking about? Like, clean what? Like, clean that filthy ass closet. I don't know what you're talking about. I remember I was on like either the curl machine or the tricep extension machine, and I was like, what is he talking about? And like a guy or two like went over there, and then they started throwing the bar around, and everything was just real ballistic, and I was like, oh my god. And comparatively, my workouts back then were easy, just pumping up your muscle. So I remember even one time, one of the guys I was lifting with at that moment, I, I remember like thinking and saying something to him along the lines of, I just want to lift and get stronger and bigger and stuff. I don't want to be like some crazy power lifter or something. And I separated them from myself. And that's one thing that I'll just never forget, because it was like before I had made the final like breach of levels to, accept nothing less than the best. And it's a shame I didn't accept that earlier, because I probably would have saved myself a lot of time. But so I'd watch them do that and be lifting huge amounts of weight, and most of the guys were pretty big anyway. I was always like the runt. Even when I started lifting more properly with some guys who were bigger than me. I started thinking about things a lot more. I was trying to like read some stuff and getting on bodybuilding.com and looking at the different bodies of all the guys who would lift in there. Like some of the guys were like real strong, and I would see it. And some of the guys looked real good. Some of them were like just big, strong, and fat. And some of the guys were like kind of strong and looked good and lean. And I started to really think that it wasn't just lifting. Like nutrition played the biggest role in all of it. And I used to like pinch like skin folds all over my body and be like, this is fat, like this doesn't need to be here. And people would be like, that's not fat, that's just skin. And in my head I'm like, you guys just don't know. And I wish back then I could have told them, like, well, if skin is as thin as the roll on the back of your hand, or like, your eyelid, then and you should be able to tell that this thick mass of skin isn't just skin, because you know how thin it truly is. Because you don't have this big like bulbous thing on your eyelid. So I would think about that a lot, but I didn't really know how to begin. And I even started thinking about, I used to skateboard, and I used to start thinking about like skating again, just for the cardio aspect, to like do something more, fun that would make me get more like cardio exercise. And we were skating, and I broke my foot this first damn day back skating, which was kind of funny because I was really just like starting to get into trying to be like serious and getting a solid approach to changing my body. So I broke my foot, and I didn't think it was broken until like way late that night. Well, not like way late, but around like 7 o'clock. And I was like, oh my god, I need to go to the hospital. And so I was broken. I got a cast on my foot. And I was just like, this is a bunch of crap. While I was unable to do stuff with my cast on, I used to just like, I'd put two chairs together in like the room downstairs, and like to make a bench, I would just do like flies and presses with my 40-pound dumbbells a million times. Just creative things, really. And I can't remember exactly when I began reading a lot, but I know it was like the most